Welcome to the Future of Work podcast. In this episode, we explore the balance between personal boundaries and professional spontaneity with LinkedIn expert turned entrepreneurial coach, Viveka von Rosen. We talk about the integration of technology in business and how AI is transforming not only workflows, but also opportunities, especially for female entrepreneurs. Viveka shares her thoughts on overcoming imposter syndrome, setting boundaries, and the ongoing challenges posed by the glass ceiling. Will technology and flexibility continue to empower women, or are there new hurdles on the horizon? Join us and find out how these changes could reshape the future of work for everyone.
Viveka, welcome to the Future Work podcast. Gosh, it's such a great bio, and I feel like I'm kind of part of that bio. I've known you since you started in your whole business.
100%. When people, especially back when I was doing LinkedIn, they ask me like how I get started, I always bring up ABCN, you reaching out saying, yeah, I hear you do a little bit of social media. And then my first speaking gig ever as an adult was at the Waldorf Astoria. So you are like part of my books and part of my history as the LinkedIn expert. And now I'm so excited that we can talk be on the dream board too.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting. You've been so involved in the rise of female entrepreneurship, even when you were back doing your work on LinkedIn, and before that, when you were working in the flexible workspace sector.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are women leveraging remote work today, which is so important? The digital platforms, what does all that mean to the future of work?
I love that question. It gives us freedom. I was literally just writing a blog post about the ability to, you know, craft businesses however we want because we can literally do them anywhere. We can, work remotely, obviously, but above and beyond that, the resources that support us are also remote, and so we have such a greater dearth. I think that was the word. Such a greater dearth of resources at our fingertips. And of course, like I said, we can work literally from anywhere. I'm remembering back in the good old days of running the executive center, which was like 110 years ago. And it was such a big deal. It was such a big deal back then that people could like go to an office for just a few hours. And we had, remember the days, right? We had computers set up for them and phone systems set up for them. Of course, not everything's digital and easy, but like the infrastructure that we had to set up. And that was a big deal for remote working. Now it's, you got your laptop, you got your cell phone, and you're good to work anywhere, anytime.
Well, and video, of course, but
Yeah.
do you think there's a big difference in this for women versus men? Or do you think this is just a universal issue that we're all enjoying together as equals?
I really do feel like it's opened up maybe even more for women than for men. Now, you mentioned video, which is funny because a lot of my clients, and I know a lot of women, are uncomfortable with video, but I think we're getting better with it. COVID, if it helped for anything at all, it got us used to Zoom and it got us used to being on camera. And I always kind of laugh because with women being on video and not liking being on video, I'm like, well, you still went to meetings, didn't you? You still went into the office. Like, you haven't
Yeah.
changed. It's just way of touch up your parents now. It's even better. So
Well, but in that regard, do you think women, or do you know
yeah.
that women dislike video more than men? Or do we all kinda dislike it and just getting used to it together? I'm kinda goofy looking anyway, but I'm used to how goofy looking I am, so I don't worry about it because there's not much I can do about it. So, whether I'm on camera or in person or on stage, just doesn't matter. I am who I am. Um,
I don't have stats about it, but what I can tell you is we ran back when I had Vengresso, we ran thousands of people through our Selling with Video program, and mostly I don't want to do this. I don't want to be on camera. Mostly that came from women, and I will also, completely anecdotally, but when I ran meetings, I would ask everyone to put their cameras on, and inevitably it would be the women who didn't have their camera on. So that's all anecdotally. I don't know. I don't have any stats, but I think the fear of video, at least in the past 2 or 3 years, maybe it's shifted a little more. So we're a little less afraid of video.
We all get used to it. I mean, it's a matter of hours, if you do anything occasionally
Yeah.
versus constantly, then it is what it is. You kinda roll, but do you think that the work-life balance or work-life integration issues of technology that's been
Mm.
come along, has been that the technology has allowed female entrepreneurs more flexibility and therefore more mobility. And how would you characterize that?
Yeah, definitely. And it's really interesting. It's, first of all, the idea of like having the pie chart balance in your life. I think
Wait,
that's
wait, 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 wait.
erroneous.
What's a pie chart balance in your life?
Oh, like having 30% time with your family, 30% time for work, 30% time health and wellness. Like I don't I think that's a myth. I don't think that type of balance is even possible. So I love that you said balance versus integration. We need to figure out ways to integrate all of those things into 24 hours. And so to actually answer your question, yeah, I feel like having the laptop, having the cell phone, being able to work literally from anywhere at any time, it's on on one hand, it's really moved into and interfered with our family lives because we can pick up a phone anywhere at any time, and we can work our businesses anywhere and any time. So on the one hand, that's not awesome. However, that being said, we can sneak those meetings in. We can sneak those emails in those in between times. So when I travel for work, I can spend time with my family via FaceTime. When I travel for fun, I can sneak in the occasional meeting even when I'm on the airplane. What's important in order to get this integration in a way that serves us is setting up our boundaries effectively, because the last thing that you want to do is spend your whole vacation on your cell phone and your laptop just because you can. So,
I would say unless you did something amazing
yeah,
by doing so.
right, right.
There's always, well, I'm kind of the anti-balance person or out of balance person. I'm more of a yin yang type.
Mhm.
My pie chart is 2 pieces that intersect, and I say there's about 50% of my time for work and about 50% of my time for other stuff, however it should be, but I don't think when that time is used matters,
That's right.
okay? Like I say, my pie is very homogenized, and all the parts are mixed up, uh, that sort of thing, because as an entrepreneur, and you've stressed entrepreneur a couple times here, and
Mm.
women entrepreneurs, um, you have to be very opportunistic,
Mhm.
okay, with your time. You have to strike while the iron is hot, proverbially at family, at relaxation, at sleep, and at opportunity as it comes to business. So I don't know that a pie chart works in any way for
I don't
entrepreneurs
think it
the way
does.
you've described it. For me, it doesn't.
No, I don't think it does. That's what I was saying, balance versus integration. I much prefer talking about integration, and all those things that you said are true, and because all those things that you said are true, I really feel like we do need to set our boundaries so that they don't interfere too much for each other, because yes, you need to strike while the iron's hot. And if you're with your family and that's detracting from your family time, that could end up causing issues that are much worse than the little gain you got from striking when the iron's hot. And those irons will always be there. So I think it's important for entrepreneurs and for female entrepreneurs, especially those who still have families to raise and husbands to raise and partners to raise, that you do have some firm boundaries. Both, I'm working now, like, don't just walk into my office, I'm working now, but also I'm with my family now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm always, challenged when people say boundaries, um, myself, because I think that they have to be highly flexible. My boundaries are not barbed wire fences. My boundaries are lines that are drawn across the ground that kind of as you approach them with a certain energy, they move out away from you, and you don't have a boundary, and then they move back and press on you at different times.
But then they're not boundaries.
I think one of the limitations
Yeah.
that I believe boundaries can set, if you're too rigid with them, is that you lose spontaneity. And without spontaneity, oftentimes you lose creative the, "Oh, that's a really great idea. I'll put that off till tomorrow."
Yeah, yeah, I can't do it now because it's 5 o'clock.
And then tomorrow, you've forgotten it.
Yeah.
Or someone else has had the same idea and you missed the opportunity. So I think in all this thing about balance, it's sort of like, I'm an old sailor. So if I'm on a let's say I'm on a paddleboard, keep it really simple. I have one type of balance that I use if I'm in smooth water. Another type of balance I use if the water is a little choppy and maybe it's windy, and an entirely different kind of balance and structure I have to have when the water is real stormy. So I think that that's more like balance in life. You have to adjust your balance relative to what's going on versus have this rigid
Yeah.
structure
I'm
overall, and it goes both ways. It isn't
yeah, I'm
just,
I'm not talking rigid structure because
it goes both ways. Anyway, I don't wanna beat that one.
no, I agree with you, but I do want to bring up one more thing because I agree with you 100%. Rigid structures just don't work anymore in this day and age. Maybe if you're an engineer, but even then, I don't know. But integrity, when you were talking about, the my boundaries when I move forward, they move out and back in, and to me, if there's too much movement in our boundaries, then we lose some integrity, which is another good old sailor's term, right? So there, we can have flexible boundaries and they have to be integrity, because if the sail's just flopping in the wind because there's no integrity there and there's nothing holding it down, then we're not getting any forward momentum either. And so flexible boundaries, yes, but those flexible boundaries have to maintain their integrity, otherwise everything fails.
Well, I will say that no one that's ever sailed with me has seen sails flopping in the wind.
I don't. I believe it.
When you bring up integrity, a whole different definition of it, I guess, or not definition, but thought application of it today, it's huge, integrity and morality and something. It's AI. The
Oh yes.
impact of, AI, not just on women, on all businesses, but is
Yeah.
there more impact on women-owned businesses than men? Because a lot of our topic here is about women entrepreneurship. So I'm asking that question from your perspective. Is it better or worse, more or less? What's your viewpoint?
I'm going to go anecdotally again. I so the people I see speaking about AI are mostly men, with some huge exceptions, like Julia, who's the CEO of oh, they just changed their name from Content at Scale to something else, but doesn't matter. Like Julia McCoy, she's a forerunner in the world of talking about AI, but it's usually men talking about it from what I've seen. And then it's interesting because when I speak to both men and women, and again, my new audience is mostly women, the questions around morality, etc. They come from the women more than the men. And one of the big AI groups I belong to is run mostly by women, and we do have some men, but the questions again around morality and hallucinations and all of that come more from the women. That being said, AI is just a tool. So whether, women can use it better or men can use it better, it's just a tool. It all comes down to how we use it. Are we using it for good or for evil? Just like the internet was, just like social media was. It's just a tool. That being said, I'm very polite to my ChatGPT and my Magi, just in case they do take over the world. I want them to remember me as being one of the nice ones.
You see, and I simply have built within every thing that I ask, I said, Please do not hallucinate.
Do
Remove
you?
remove
Oh.
all hallucinations."
Ooh, I like that.
If you actually ask them to
What?
remove hallucinations, and I'm serious about this, from an engineering point of
Oh
view,
my god, that's amazing. I didn't even think to do that.
it's actually built into the code. They will then fact check themselves,
Amazing.
and you won't get garbage in, garbage out as much.
I'm totally adding that, like, as soon as we get off the phone, like, remove them. That's gonna go on to every prompt that I
You
have.
know, so I think it's there, but, the morality of let's see, I read a little thing that was kinda cute the other day. I was born too late
Mm.
to be in the age of exploration, and I was born too early to explore the stars, but I was born just at the time where AI will take my job. Uh, so, we are in an interesting position now of retraining. I don't feel that there's a morality about AI doing someone's job. Just as
Yeah,
I don't feel there was a morality about building an automobile instead of people having buggies and horses. I think there's a moral judgment that's capable of being made there. Um, and I don't think there's a moral judgment that could say, "Well, you shouldn't make cars because then you're gonna have increased bank robberies."
right, right.
You
That's specious, yeah.
we can all look for reasons to stop progress, but we also have to say, "Hey, we need traffic, control. We need roads that'll hold up to the speed of automobiles now. We need all these other things," and I think that the tools that we need to manage AI a as a capability, are just beginning to evolve, just like we had cars before we had stop signs.
Yeah,
We had stop signs before we had stop lights that could control traffic multiple ways. We're still trying to figure out how to make roads better, or whether we should have roads at all anymore or cars at all anymore because we should have public transportation and stuff. We're constantly going through these things. So I
absolutely.
don't know, but I don't know from a user's point of view. And as you know, in our industry and in my company, we do have an awful lot of probably a predominance of female employees.
Right.
Um, we're not noticing any difference in the use or the adaptation of AI inside of the tools that we apply in our own company, ma-
Yeah,
male
yeah.
or female. We look at it in some respects as an equalizer to
Mhm.
ensure that everyone has access to the greatest productive capacity, no matter what. And I
Absolutely.
your thoughts are on that and whether women are embracing things AI as an equalizer or whether or not they're not a non-engineering type, so they're they haven't yet embraced it.
Right. Well, I'm a non-engineering type 100%, and I
I know that. Gee,
I know. I mean, and I've embraced it like 100% because it's an equalizer, absolutely, for me. Um, I personally, there's no way I could have launched my business as quickly as I did without AI. I mean, the two just went kind of hand in hand, and thank goodness. And the same thing for my clients. Like, we're able to build their, and not that I build websites or do anything like that, but we're able to, create their brand, create their content, create their copy, create all of those things in their voice significantly faster than they could in an old world. Now, what I will say is those things that demand human factor, like a really good marketing voice. I mean, we still, it's not like throw a prompt in and the post is done. I mean, we still need the human voice. Same thing, the image. I mean, they still don't know how to put words on images. So there's still the human interaction that's needed. Customer success and customer service, it's like any good or bad customer service. AI really helps and and is replacing a lot of jobs where people didn't speak English anyway. So, in that case, now AI is sliding in through chat and other ways where the answers are faster, better, stronger, but a really phenomenal customer success person or customer service person is going to blow away anything that AI can offer. So the humanity right now is still got that leading edge as far as I'm concerned.
I would agree with that. We, in our own service department, we have applied AI to rules and questions and things of this nature, but we've applied it more as a knowledge base behind the people rather than an interface in front of the people.
Yeah. Because otherwise you have someone reading a script and they're reading the wrong answers and it's so frustrating for everyone involved, right?
Yeah, I think you have that. And if you're in a service department, the first thing you need to have is empathy.
Yes.
First thing is you need to be able to relate to the other person's problem. And otherwise, you are giving them an owner's manual,
Yeah. Which I can look that up myself.
but you're not really helping them and servicing them correctly. And so I think that's a bridge AI has yet to pass. And when I look at what's being done today, I think that bridge will be crossed sooner than later.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why it's like, because when this airs, things might be different, 6 months from now, things will be different. It's amazing how quickly it's moving.
You know, when we talk about women in general in the workforce, an awful lot of them aren't in an entrepreneurial position. They are part of a labor force overall. One of my fears when we talk about service departments is that a big percentage of those people that will need to be reskilled uh,
Mhm.
will be women
Yeah.
because of what AI is doing. And if you look at the layoffs of a lot of the big tech companies, oh, we just laid off 15,000 people. Yeah, great. Why? Well, we overhired a little bit. Oh, we hired the wrong people. We hired the wrong people. We shouldn't have hired programmers. We should have hired people that understand AI. So we're now we laid people off, but we're hiring too simultaneously. So there's going to be a massive reskilling
Yeah,
process that we
absolutely.
all have to go through, and I think it's an entrepreneur's obligation to actually start reskilling themselves
Absolutely.
immediately first, yesterday, last year, uh,
Last year, yeah.
on all of this. Otherwise, there won't be an entrepreneur for long.
No, no, I'm already seeing it. People who are afraid of AI and aren't using it in their businesses, in my world, they're falling so quickly behind. And I was introduced to it in November of 2023, and I didn't really jump in with both feet until February of 2024. Oh, that's this year. Uh, and I can tell, that 3-month lack, I can see where I'm just scrabbling to keep up. So you're absolutely right. But the reskilling is key. And I do think it will make people's lives and jobs easier if they're open to it. It means less menial labor, but that might mean more opportunity, right? And so the reskilling is key.
That is the purpose. A truck can carry more than a horse with a wagon. And all these things that, we look at as progress, even though there's always a sacrifice you make to get there, and there's always a sacrifice you've made to
Yeah.
stay there. Um, so I think we go to that. But when you talk about progress and sacrifices and decision making, a lot of that's around self-doubt, okay, and, the entrepreneurial world in particular, did I do it right or wrong? Women, entrepreneurs, imposter syndrome, overcoming that, self-doubt, how does that relate to the future of work? What graduation do you see overcoming this that takes us to what I hope every day is a better place for everyone?
Yeah, what a great question. It's amazing, imposter syndrome. I mean, I work with mostly women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. They've been highly successful, incredibly successful in their companies and in their industries. And as they move into this new spaces that they're working in, it's either something completely new or same topic, different industry, different topic, same industry, whatever it is. A lot of them have imposter syndrome because there's the who am I to do this. I hope that is a symptom of women our age and people our age, 50s plus. I hope that the younger generations, the Z's, the alphas who are coming in don't have that weight on their shoulders. Um, it's a mindset, it is a mindset shift, and there's a lot of, well, just get over it. It is what it is. We could spend a whole other half hour talking about how it comes down to belief in yourself and belief in your abilities, and how culturally we're affected by where we grew up and how we grew up. So I don't have an answer, other than I hope maybe that the folks coming into the workforce now are better able to deal with the fluctuation and the necessity of being able to change and pivot on a dime as new technologies, new businesses, new industries come into our world. Because let's face it, when I became the LinkedIn expert, it was only because there was three of us talking about LinkedIn. I wasn't the expert, but no one else was either. And with AI, yeah, AI is the expert. But as we move into and introduce these new fields, who really is? So just claim your space. But it's such a big mindset piece.
Well, it's I'd simplify all that by the old adage, "Fake it till you make it."
Well, yeah, except for don't say fake it till you make it when you're in New Zealand, because I spoke there and I said fake it till you make it, and oh man, they did not like that at all. Same thing with
Well
with
well, I won't say anything because they're all coming to the US anyway, so
but yeah, yeah, that is very American, fake it till you make it. Yeah.
when it comes down to also, you know, the issues between generations, every generation, including my own, I was a child of the '60s, and we all thought we invented both peace and sex. We felt that that was something that, we invented, and every generation forgets that there's not much you're really inventing. There's not much that's new. Technology changes and things of these nature, but people really don't. And people have to deal with people, and they have to deal with themselves overall. And if you can only interface with a computer, then you're really not very interesting, unless it's to the computer, in which case you're even less interesting. So, we have to remember that we all stand upon the shoulders of those that came before us, and that that's not going to change. materially. So takes me sort of to a final thought: change, the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
How thick is it? Is it really even there anymore? How do you define when it's gone, if it's not already? How do you set this? Because there's always a barrier for growth against everybody who doesn't grow. So yeah, how do you assess that now, and what's your feeling on the status of the glass ceiling?
Yeah, sadly, it's still there. I strongly believe, as an entrepreneur, stepped out. I mean, I won't go into the details, but I stepped out from a ceiling I couldn't break through, and I decided I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to go do my own thing. And there's something to be said to that. Most of my women, especially those who have stepped out of corporate, have horrendous stories about the glass ceiling, and not just from the 70s or 80s or 90s, from 2 weeks ago. So it, unfortunately, I think is very, very much still there. Um, it's maybe not as thick as it was because we're aware of it. And there's a lot of DEI and other trainings that companies have to have, and to make sure that the glass ceiling at least is a little bit thinner. It's not all men keeping women down either. It's a lot of times it's women keeping women down, but there is still a keeping down.
Well, I was saying if women are keeping women down and men are keeping men down, blah, 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 is it still a glass ceiling? Because from a practical point of view, there's always somebody keeping somebody down.
Oh, but is there? Does there have to be? I mean, I feel like yeah, if we're looking at the model, the pyramid model of traditional business, then yeah,
There's
then
always someone at the top, there's always someone at the
there's
bottom.
always time. But I'm also saying that a lot of businesses are not formed that way. They're from the middle out, in which case a lot less chance of a glass ceiling because you don't have that hierarchy. And so I feel like there are businesses that there's just literally no space for a glass ceiling. There are businesses that will always have a glass ceiling. And then there are people who are like, I'm out. You won't have a glass ceiling because we're not going to do it. So I think it still exists. I think there is more awareness, knowledge about it. So maybe it's less pervasive than it has been in the past. And I think we finally have a world and an economy and opportunities where we can just step away and say, yeah, there's a glass ceiling, and I don't want to play in that world anymore.
Well, it's funny. I think that when we look at that, we look at it very much with a first world country centric perspective.
Yes.
And I think that if there is a glass ceiling, that the glass ceiling we have here is not necessarily the one we should be focused on. It should be the glass ceiling in the second and third world countries where the ceiling isn't glass, it's solid steel, it's impenetrable, and it's a human rights issue rather than a
Yes.
"I'm more
Personal
than you,"
rights. Yeah.
issue, that an awful lot of attention needs to be spent there, but, that's my feeling.
No, I agree with you. Like I remember speaking with a young woman from Russia who escaped
Mhm.
before everything happened, and I remember her going to a women's event that we were having at this one conference, and she just basically was like, "Oh my god," where we were complaining about our husbands and being an extra 20 pounds overweight, and she was just like, "You don't even like stop. You don't even know what it's like," and she was absolutely right. You know.
We really have to look around us and be careful of what we complain about and be careful of what we think we have to fix versus others, and maybe a big part of this is we should all step out this conversation. We should all step out at least on a regular basis and just see how can we help everybody, not just a particular group, but everybody recognize all that should be done. God, I've gotten very philosophical here. It's a business podcast, and I'm thinking about third world country problems,
Yeah.
and we should. Uh,
We should. And to bring it to bring it all the way around, full circle, what I will say is technology, whether it's AI, whether it's computers and cell phones, like there is so much more opportunity for those women in third world countries to participate, to start their own businesses. I contribute to a nonprofit called I Give Global that works with women in second and third world countries with their businesses, and so there's just. So I was talking to another woman the other day, and we're going to do a Zoom in the Ukraine for those women. Like there's so much opportunity now that these women have never had before, and a lot still needs to be done.
oh, there's so much. I worry as much about opportunities just for a simple education as I do opportunities for entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
So there is an awful lot. Well, Viveka, it's been really a pleasure. I'm really grateful to you for your time today and sharing your thoughts. I know you've had your own path that has been extremely entrepreneurial and successful, uh, and all I can do is wish you even more successes in the future.
Thank you so much, Frank. It was great to be here again, and the cycle keeps spinning.
Yep, it does. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks.
If it's impacting the future of work, it's in the Future of Work podcast by allwork.space.